So there's two ways to pull this inner race off. They always come out with the hub. I don't think I've ever had it not. It's pressed onto the hub. So you can either take a grinding wheel and you can slit this, hammer it, that'll crack it apart, and then it'll slide right off. And then you obviously can't reuse it. So mine are in really good condition, and they're all like 50 bucks each, so I'd kind of like to reuse them. Save me 100 bucks. So you get yourself some kind of heat. I'm using, they call it MAP gas, but it's not MAP gas. You can't buy real MAP gas anymore. So you heat this, just the bearing out. So if you take a look at our hub here, it's got these two notches, one on each side. And what those are for is to hammer the bearing off. Some hubs don't have that. A lot of the foreign hubs don't, because they just want you to buy new stuff. So if yours doesn't have those, you can drill a hole and you can do the same method. You can grind a half circle, but if you grind or drill, you have to do both sides symmetrically or your balance will be off. So I'm going to warm this up a little bit and then bring you back when we're ready to start hammering. Alright, so we should be hot enough. So the first thing I'm coming in is with the chisel. I'm going to get it just behind the lip there, in the groove of the hub, and hammer and see if it moves. And there we go, she's moving. So, as soon as I get it out a little bit, I'm going to switch from the chisel, and I'm going to go to a regular punch. This is about a 3/8 or 1/4 inch. This might be a 5/16. Doesn't matter anyways. That's just so you don't scratch your hub surface. Last tip I'll give you is do not try to catch this when it falls off, unless you like burns. So now I'm going to swivel my vise so it's over the table. It'll just fall right on the table. And there we go. Got both my hubs off. If these bearings were all crusty and nasty, I would definitely trash them, but I mean, they're in pretty good shape. This car doesn't have that many miles on it. It's more age than anything. So here's what we're working with. This is the RX-7 hub, and this is the Ford Exploder hub. So all I need to do is make this look like this, and then the RX-7 bearing will slide right on here, and then that'll be my new hub. So the difference between these, zeroed out on the RX-7 hub, go to the Exploder, it's 200 thousandths or so, which happens to be, should be 5 millimeters. Look at that, because they're both metric. All right, so that's all I got to do is turn this guy down. Shoulder's about in the same spot. And so on the Explorers, the brake rotor has a larger inner seat diameter, and the rim has the smaller one. So the Mustang, the smaller diameter is the same for both the Mustang rotor and the Mustang rim. So all I need to do is turn down this little section right here where the Explorer rotor usually is. I just need to turn it down to match this diameter, and then my Mustang rotor will sit flush onto my hub. Now I got the hub in the lathe, and we're turning down the diameter I need to turn down. So we'll turn these into RX-7 hubs. First hub is done. So we've got the stock Explorer hub, the modified Explorer hub, and the stock RX-7 hub. So this is turned down, and then the inner radius, I made it slightly smaller than the RX-7. I didn't have the exact size tool for that, so I just went one size smaller. Hopefully that bearing race doesn't need full support, but it does have a radius, so I shouldn't break right there. And when you weren't looking, I turned down the front of the hub first, and that's so the Mustang rotor can sit flush on this surface. It's a little easier to see on this one that's all rusty. You can see that shiny part, that's where I turned it down. I just matched the diameter, test fit with the rotor, and that was it. So I'll get this guy turned down, and then we'll be ready to bolt these on. Now I got both these guys turned down, ready to go. So we're going to attempt some reassembly. Hubs are all pressed into the spindles now. One thing I didn't take into account, and I kind of lucked out on, is the head of the studs on these are a lot closer. They don't touch, but they are real close. If I would have measured that ahead of time, I probably would have ground a little bit more of a relief on this, but seems to be fine the way it is. So we're gonna go with it. So now I'm ready to install these back on the car, and we can actually bolt our wheels on and then drop it on the ground. So now we're ready for our first test fit. So I got the spindle on the car, got the caliper out of the way. This is the used Mustang rotor I grabbed for mock-up. And our Mustang tire. For some reason there's a lot of wrecked Mustangs in the junkyard. I don't know why. It is like it was meant to be. Look at that. Tucks right under the wheel well. Couldn't have planned it better if I tried. So everything spins pretty freely. We'll go ahead and drop it on the ground and see what it looks like. There we are with the weight on the tire. Doesn't look too bad at all. It's going to have plenty of clearance as far as suspension travel goes. So now we're ready for the next step, which will be figuring out how to put the brake calipers from the Mustang onto the RX-7.